It was supposed to be a routine hearing, just another case on the docket of a small-town courtroom, the kind of place where the hum of fluorescent lights and the occasional rustle of papers were the only sounds breaking the monotony. No one paid much attention to these proceedings, tucked away in a corner of America where life moved at a deliberate, unhurried pace. But on that crisp morning, something extraordinary unfolded, something that would crack the facade of justice wide open and send shockwaves across the nation. The air inside the courtroom hung heavy, stagnant, almost oppressively ordinary. A handful of parents fidgeted in the wooden pews, their eyes drifting aimlessly as they awaited the next name to be called. At the center of it all sat Judge Lucas Brant, perched behind the bench like a sentinel. His black robe was immaculately pressed, his face a mask of calculated detachment. He was a man who thrived on control, who spoke only when necessary, his every word clipped and deliberate. To him, this courtroom was his kingdom, a sterile domain where order reigned supreme. Then, in an instant, everything shifted. A teenage girl rose quietly from the front row, her small frame barely noticeable at first. She couldn't have been more than 15, her wide, tearful eyes betraying a mix of fear and resolve. Her hands trembled slightly as she clutched a folded piece of paper to her chest, a fragile shield against the weight of the moment. Her voice, soft and hesitant, cut through the stillness like a whisper in a cathedral. "Before we begin," she said, "may I pray for my mom?" The words hung in the air, simple yet profound. A few heads turned, curiosity rippling through the room. No one responded. Her mother, seated a few rows back in a wheelchair, lifted her gaze, her eyes glistening with a quiet, unspoken gratitude that seemed to anchor her daughter's courage. The girl closed her eyes, her lips moving in a short, whispered prayer, a plea for hope, for strength, for something bigger than the cold walls around her. The response was swift and brutal. The gavel crashed down with a force that echoed off the paneling, shattering the silence. "Stop right now!" Judge Brant's voice boomed, sharp and unyielding, slicing through the room like a blade. His face flushed red, his fists clenched atop the bench, his eyes blazing with a fury that seemed disproportionate to the girl's quiet request. "You will not pray in my courtroom," he declared, each word dripping with authority. The girl faltered, confusion washing over her features. "I didn't mean to," she stammered, her voice breaking. "Stop," he interrupted. "This is a court of law, not a church. Bailiff, escort her out." Gasps erupted from the gallery, a collective intake of breath, as the weight of his command settled in. The girl's mother tried to speak, her voice frail but desperate, but Brant slammed the gavel again, silencing her. The bailiff, a burly man with a weathered face, hesitated for a split second, his eyes flickering with unease, before stepping forward. He took the girl's arm gently, almost apologetically, and led her toward the exit. Her lips trembled, tears streaming down her cheeks as she cast one last, longing look at her mother. She wasn't alone in her tears. Muffled sobs echoed from the pews, a quiet chorus of disbelief. The room froze. No one moved. No one dared to breathe too loudly, as if the air itself had turned brittle. But the damage was done, sealed in that fleeting, explosive moment. Unbeknownst to Brant, a woman in the back row had captured it all on her phone, a shaky, 28-second video that would soon ignite a firestorm. Within hours, it spread across the internet like wildfire, racking up millions of views. By the next day, it was inescapable. Hashtags like "Let Them Pray" trending on X, outrage pulsing through comment threads, news anchors dissecting the footage on every major network. The nation watched, riveted and divided, as the clip looped endlessly: a young girl's prayer, a judge's wrath, a courtroom turned battlefield. But while the world reeled and reacted, one woman was already in motion, her resolve hardening with every frame she watched. Caroline Leavitt didn't need to replay the video. Once was enough. The moment she saw that trembling teenager escorted out for daring to whisper a prayer, something deep within her snapped. Not out of anger, but out of a fierce, unshakable principle. This wasn't about politics or headlines. It was about right and wrong, about a line crossed that she couldn't ignore. At 34, Caroline was no stranger to standing her ground, sharp-witted, relentless, with a reputation for cutting through noise to find truth. She'd spent years as a communicator, a voice for causes she believed in. But this felt different. This was personal. That night she packed a single bag, her movements deliberate as she folded a gray blazer and tucked a notebook into the side pocket. She booked a red-eye flight from D.C. to that small town, the hum of the plane's engines matching the steady drumbeat of her thoughts. She landed as dawn broke, the sky streaked with pink, and stepped onto the tarmac with one mission: uncover the truth. If it led where she suspected, into the heart of a courtroom corrupted by power, she wouldn't walk away quietly. What she would discover in the next few days would rattle not just that courthouse, but the very foundations of justice itself. Judge Lucas Brandt, she thought as she adjusted her bag, was about to realize he no longer held the reins. The question lingered in her mind as she drove through the town's quiet streets. What would you do if your child was punished for praying in public? It wasn't hypothetical for her, it was a call to action. She believed justice and faith weren't mutually exclusive, that one shouldn't be sacrificed for the other. And if anyone watching that viral video felt the same, she hoped they'd amplify it, hit like, comment 9 for the silenced prayer, and brace themselves. Because what came next would blindside them all. Caroline arrived at the courthouse, her boots clicking against the pavement as she stepped out of the rental car. The building loomed ahead, a squat brick structure that seemed to squat defiantly against the chaos erupting online. But something was off. There were no reporters swarming the steps, no police cordons, no protest signs, just an eerie, unnatural silence. It didn't match the inferno blazing across social media, where the video had become a national obsession. It was as if the town wanted to erase the incident, to bury it beneath layers of quiet denial. But Caroline wasn't here for silence. She was here to stir the storm. Inside, the air smelled of old wood and stale coffee. A clerk at the front desk, a nervous woman with wire-rimmed glasses, glanced up as Caroline approached, recognition flickering in her eyes. By now, Caroline's face had appeared on enough screens for her to be unmistakable. The clerk shifted uncomfortably, avoiding eye contact. "I'm here to observe," Caroline said, sliding her ID across the counter with a steady hand. "Open session, correct?" The clerk nodded, her voice a faint murmur. "Yes, ma'am, but the judge's chambers aren't taking visitors." Caroline's lips twitched into a half-smile, her green eyes narrowing slightly. "I'm not here for his chambers. I'm here to see what he does in public." Without waiting for a reply, she strode past the desk, her footsteps echoing down the linoleum hallway toward the main courtroom. The building felt like a relic, its walls steeped in a stillness that bordered on dread. Portraits of stern-faced judges lined the corridor, their gazes seeming to follow her as she walked. But as she rounded a corner, she stopped short. A man sat on a bench outside the courtroom doors, his shoulders slumped, his tie loosened as if he'd given up on appearances. He was in his 40s with dark circles under his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights. Beside him sat a boy, no more than 8, clutching a crumpled paper cross he'd fashioned from notebook scraps. The sight tugged at something in Caroline's chest. She approached slowly, her voice softening. "Is everything okay?" The man looked up, his expression weary. There was a long pause, then his voice cracked. "They're inside now," he said. "My wife was cited for kneeling. She didn't say a word, just knelt beside our son while we waited for our case. Judge called it disruptive conduct." Caroline's breath caught. She knelt beside the boy, her tone gentle. "Oh, and you made that?" She pointed to the paper cross. He nodded, his small voice barely audible. "It's for her, to keep it close in case I get scared." Caroline's jaw tightened, a flicker of anger sparking behind her calm exterior. She stood, pulled a notebook from her bag, and turned to the father. "Tell me everything." He did, quietly, methodically, recounting the case number, the judge's exact words, the way his wife's hands had shaken as she was fined. When he finished, she handed him her card, her instructions firm. "Call me the moment the hearing ends." She wasn't stepping into that courtroom blind. By midday, Caroline had tracked down 3 more families, each with stories that mirrored the father's. Quiet acts of faith, met with citations, fines, or outright threats, all under Judge Brandt's gavel. A retired school nurse, her eyes brimming with tears, told Caroline she'd been dismissed from jury duty for wearing a silver cross necklace. "I wasn't even thinking about it," the woman said, her voice trembling. "He said it made me biased." A mechanic recounted how his son's custody hearing had been derailed when he mentioned a Bible verse in his testimony. Brandt had deemed it irrelevant. Caroline scribbled every detail, names, docket numbers, her handwriting tight and precise. This wasn't coincidence. It was a pattern, deliberate and chilling, and patterns like this didn't emerge without intent. A young ex-clerk slipped Caroline a flash drive in the courthouse hallway, trembling. "Brandt deletes memos to hide his rulings. I saved what I could after that girl's video." In her car, Caroline opened it. "Flagged conduct," revealed Brandt's notes. "Religious zealot, watch for prayer. Christian pin, possible plant." This was a system to erase faith. She'd return with force. The courtroom tensed as Brandt tapped his gavel. Caroline entered, red folder in hand. "You're not on the docket," he snapped. "I'm a witness to wrong," she said. "Explain the fines for faith." He warned of contempt. She countered with the folder. Clerk files proving discrimination. "A stunt," he said. "Tell the families," she replied, opening it. "Lower credibility for religious signs." Gasps rose. DOJ agents entered. "Federal matter," one said. Brandt paled. "You've started something," he muttered. "Good," she smiled. He was escorted out, the bench empty. Voices rose, people once silenced. In the hallway, Caroline revealed a second drive. The quiet bench, a nationwide plan. Brandt vanished, picked up by an unmarked car. "He's hiding secrets," she said, ordering a lockdown. Drives showed a network, judicial harmonization, a note. Burn it all, the clerk called. They're shredding. Get a team, Caroline said. The courtroom brimmed with expectation. Brant faced a DOJ panel. Bias charges. Deny it? Number Y resented Faith, pushed by groups. His authority was stripped. Caroline told the girl, "It's over." "It's beginning," she said. Flowers thanked them. Power-controlled people, Caroline told the crowd. An audit began. She'd fight on.